Hey, 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 everybody. This is Dr. Gibbs, and this is the Tuesday Live. Tonight we have a special guest, Dr. Alicia Shelly, who is a board certified internal medicine and obesity medicine physician and the host of the Back on Track podcast, where she shares stories for achieving healthy weight loss and thriving for life. She has been featured on a bunch of news outlets, Fox 5, CNN, Upscale Magazine, Shape.com. And she has a coaching business and consults for corporations on employee wellness as well. Welcome, Dr. Shelly. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here today.
Awesome. So I want to ask you, so I know you are you started your life and your career as an internal medicine physician. Give us a little bit more of an introduction to you and how you got to doing what you're doing today.
Yeah. So I started off in primary care, and I was interested in the field of obesity because it's something that I had struggled with all my life. And
Okay.
so I ended up undergoing bariatric surgery in 2015.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then
Okay.
trying to learn more about the obesity field and how I could help others was what actually motivated me to actually become board certified in obesity medicine. And so
Okay.
I have this obesity medicine field has been completely changed from when I first got into it. So there's so many new medications. There's so many new breakthroughs that have occurred. And so it's been such a fulfilling profession. So I still do primary care,
Mhm.
and I do a couple days of obesity medicine. So it's been very, very
Okay.
helpful.
All right. So do you have coaching clients as well as your medical practice?
So I don't
Like,
actually coach clients currently. I'm more of a consultant for
oh, okay.
corporations. I do my podcast, and then I see patients in the office.
Okay. And you're located, I'm sorry, I forget. I thought it was Georgia, but
Yeah.
I don't remember.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm located in Douglasville, Georgia, which is right outside of
Douglasville.
Atlanta. Mm.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, so the kind of stuff that I'm excited to ask you about really is, related to my audience, which are mostly concerned with hormone imbalances and their thyroid and menopause and, weight gain, abnormal weight gain, and just, kind of boring old everyday weight gain tends to be something that is a high locus of concern for my clients. So the questions that I really, really am excited to ask you are really more towards how people can kickstart their weight loss journey towards success, because so many people have been up and down. And they tried this and it worked great. And then they finished the diet and boom, everything came back and just got discouraged and worse and worse. And the more they try, the worse their hormones get. And it's just very, very discouraging. So I'm I'm excited to hear your different approach to managing this for a lifetime of healthy weight and healthy habits.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I do see several patients, multiple patients in my office that are going through the same thing where they're in that perimenopausal or menopausal state where it's just as if like the weight is just located in their stomach. It's not going anywhere. They've changed their way they move, the way they eat, and they're just not seeing a loss. And so,
Yeah.
and it can be so discouraging. It can be so, some people end up giving up sometimes when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But definitely, there's hope. There's hope. And so, let's talk about what are some things that we see here. Now, it is physiologic for us as women to start to have fat that's being deposited in our stomach region. And that's just
Hmm.
due to the estrogen levels that are decreasing through menopause and
Hmm.
perimenopause. And I tell people
Yes.
all the time is that once you start losing weight, your stomach will decrease, but it's going to be slow. So don't give up.
Mhm.
Don't get
Yeah.
discouraged. Keep going. Keep going. So
Mhm.
here are a couple of suggestions or strategies to make sure that you implement. So the first thing, number one, take an audit of where you are, right?
Mhm.
Because usually around this time, most women have a lot of obligations. They may be taking care of their children, or they may be taking care of their grandkids, or work obligations or spouse obligations. And so sometimes your time is not your own. And
Mhm.
time that you had, and when you look back, we remember when it was when we were in our 20s, when we didn't have as many responsibilities that we have now in our 40s and 50s. And, it's like trying to juggle everything, like how can I get my child to dance camp, get the son to baseball, and then for me to go
Mhm.
exercise, I'm just running back
Right. Exactly.
and start with small goals, things you can start to implement that's not necessarily going to cause you to feel overwhelmed or stressed or anxious. So you may say to yourself, hey, I have to get these kids, all their extracurricular, evenings are really crazy for me. But
Mhm.
what I do is maybe meal prep on the weekend and have some of that,
Mhm.
some food available. So I just have to grab and go and I don't have to think about it. So just see where you
Mhm.
are, and then the second thing I was going to say was make small goals that you can implement. And then
Mhm.
third, let's touch a little bit on the nutrition part of this. So
Mhm.
definitely everyone's different when it comes to nutrition. There are some people that, for example, if there's somebody that has a history of diabetes, then it's
Mhm.
important that they eat a low carbohydrate diet. If they're a
Mhm.
person who has high blood pressure, it's important that they eat a low sodium diet. And
Mhm.
so for the rest of us that may not necessarily have some of these conditions, the diet is more of our cultural preferences, our preference
Mhm.
as far as what type of diet to eat. Now they've done studies
Mhm.
pairing all these diets together. And the one thing that
Mhm.
they found was that all the diets help you lose weight. And it's because of that.
Okay. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, they do. It's just trying to find out which one you can stick with. Which one is something
What
that
is
you can stick
sustainable?
with.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is sustainable? The secret sauce to weight loss is honestly consistency. So that's the fourth thing. So I think the first thing I said was taking accountability. Second
Mhm.
thing, give yourself grace, and make small goals. And then the fourth thing, and then I talked about the nutrition. Well, I'm talking about the nutrition here.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the other thing I would say is consistency. So being consistent in
Mhm.
what you got. So going back
Mhm.
to the nutrition. So choosing a particular nutritional plan, diet, or eating plan that works best for you. Now, if you are
Okay.
somebody that does not prefer meat, then the paleo
Mhm.
diet, which is basically all meat and
Mhm.
just basically the food that the caveman ate, would
Mhm.
not. If you're one that prefers more vegetarian options, then you may want to do more
Mhm.
of a plant-based diet. So figuring out where
Mhm.
you are and figuring out which one you can incorporate. Now, there
Mhm.
are some nutritional principles that people should include when they're
Okay.
and the number one is making sure you're eating less processed foods. So in America, we want things to
Oh my
stay on
goodness.
for a while. Yeah, and so we have so much of the processed food. So we put a lot of salt in there, a lot of sugar, because we need it to stay fresh. So
On the shelf. Mhm.
yes. So focusing on foods that are less processed. And when I
Mhm.
think less processed, you're thinking of think of an apple, right? An apple itself is less processed, but you can take that same apple and create apple juice. Or you can say that same apple and create apple sauce. You can also
Mhm.
create apple and have apple grain gummy bears. Which one's more processed? The gummy bears. They have more stuff in it.
Right.
You want to be less processed when you eat. And it's
Sure.
also to cook at home versus eating out, because the fast food, the different restaurants, they just want you to come back. So they put all types of preservatives in the food to kind of make it more palatable.
Mm.
Focusing
Oh
on the
yeah.
less dense foods is important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I continue, or do you have another question for me? I have a couple
No,
more.
no, that's super helpful. So less processed, plan your meals, and 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 don't eat out as much as possible. Eat at home as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's a good start.
And then I would say
How
definitely make sure you drink some water. Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
Okay, no, drink water. No, that's wonderful because you mentioned apple juice, and I'm thinking to myself, ooh, I tell my people not to drink fruit juice just because it's rapidly absorbed carbs and it's not great for your body.
Oh yeah. No, that was just my example of processed foods because apple juice
Right?
is
Yeah,
yeah. So you
of
put a lot
course.
of
Yeah.
sugar and all that kind of stuff in there. Definitely, I agree with drinking more water or earth
hmm
juice, earth juice, as somebody would call me, because
Earth juice.
the water is much better for you. It's fresher. It's cleansing out your body. It's helping you stay
Sure.
regular. So it has so many
hmm
good properties, and it's 0 calories. You'll
Yeah.
feel, but you have less calories on it too, as well.
Yeah. And are you okay with people putting a little bit of lemon juice in their water if they're like, oh, I don't like the taste of water?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of patients where they don't like water, and so these are nice
Mhm.
alternatives. And that lemon juice
Yeah.
can be helpful, and just making
Mhm.
sure you put the water in and have a little flavor, and it's natural.
Okay.
The lemon,
Yeah.
especially if you use lemon.
Okay. I have two more questions, and they're specific to nutrition. The first one is, how do you feel about non-nutritive sweeteners? Because I've heard, oh, they're great because then you don't want, then you're not drinking sugar. And then I've heard, no, they're terrible because they perpetuate your sweet tooth and they raise your insulin levels. So what's the truth?
So the second thing you said is more truthful. So they're doing studies looking at these non-nutritive sweeteners, not necessarily
hmm
looking at the more of like the aspartame itself
hmm
versus
Yeah.
the stevia, which is a little bit with a little more healthier, the stevia. But with their
Okay.
aspartame that you see in your diet Pepsi, your diet Cokes,
Yeah.
that actually they were looking at the heart effects and they're noticing that there is an increase in the heart disease with people with drinking the aspartame. So
Oh, wow.
and this was just a study that came out this year. So I mean, I'm sure they need
Mm.
more studies to make sure it's a valid finding, but
Uh-huh.
it's not looking good. Let me just put it like that. So,
Okay.
I
Well, thank
definitely
goodness I gave that up.
yes, yes, yes. It is hard. I mean, because we get used to that. And sometimes it's
Yeah.
so much easier to, drink a diet Pepsi instead of drinking a Pepsi, and definitely
hmm
in comparison, it is better, but it's not something you want to be on long term. So
Got
you
it.
really want to be able to, transition to water or other modalities as well, because
Mhm.
it's not something you want to be on for the long term. But yes, it's the second option. But sometimes for my patients, if you're drinking Coca-Cola every day, it's hard
Oh.
to taper down.
Mhm.
I mean, so you try to give people a way to get started, like small goals, but with the intention that you're going to get off of it, but you kind of
Mhm.
spread it out.
Yeah.
You maybe drink a mini Coke or, a couple every other day. So you want to kind of
Mhm.
like allow your body to taper down off of it, but you shouldn't be on it
Got
for
it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. My family has recently transitioned over to drinking like the fizzy mineral waters that don't have any sweetness to them at all. So, and actually, we're kind of liking that. So that's kind of good.
Yeah, it's funny because in our mind, we're like, oh, I'm never going to like this. But when you try
Mhm.
it out, you have an open mind, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot
Yeah.
easier to accept. So
Yeah.
definitely for those who may be struggling with the sodas, try the alternatives, the bubbly, the fizz. They have that
Yeah.
carbonate soda, water part. So you kind of get the bubblies, but it's a little bit more healthier for you. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question about nutrition is, what about intermittent fasting? I mean, that's all the rage these days. It's all the buzz. But then I've heard, oh my gosh, if you do it wrong, it makes you worse. And so I just want to know what you recommend and what you think. And, it just, because I'm in this space, I get ads in my Facebook feed all the time for this intermittent fasting program for this age of person and that one for this age of person. And, and I'm like, what's the truth? What is the truth about intermittent fasting?
So I would say intermittent fasting is helpful in losing weight. I definitely have had
Okay.
patients lost weight with it. There
Mhm.
are, and for those who may not be aware of what intermittent fasting is, it's
Yeah, let's
basically,
start with that.
yeah, it's basically where you are fasting from eating for at a certain time period. There's different types. So the most common type is the 16-8, where you fast for 16 hours and then you eat for 8. So a lot of people may, start eating at 12 and be done by 8, and then they're fine. They have their lunch, their dinner, and then they eat a couple meals in between, and then they fast for the rest of the time. Now, when you
Mhm.
fast, you can drink water, you can drink black coffee, but, for the most part, it's really just water that you're doing. The other
Okay.
type of intermittent fasting is where you go 24 hours without eating 2 days out the week and then 3 days.
Oh.
So, regularly as you normally would. So it's just one way how
Mhm.
to fast. And then of course they have that's the 5-2, where 2 days you fast and then 5 days you eat regularly or healthy as you
Mhm.
normally do. And then they have the other one where every other day you're doing a 24-hour fast. So there's different types. The most
Mhm.
common is 16-8, just because you're
Okay.
still being able to eat something and it's
Mhm.
sometimes easier to, start eating at noon than it is to eat a little bit earlier. And I've seen people lose weight with it, 30
Mhm.
pounds or so, and feel good with it as well.
Mhm.
Definitely if you're somebody that doesn't like breakfast, this is another option for you because you're going
Perfect.
to be eating a little bit later anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So do you find that 16 and 8 kind of to be the thing that you would recommend people try most often as far as
Intermittent
as
fasting.
far as fasting programs? Would that be something you would actually recommend people try?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely, especially if you're one that likes to eat late, because
Uh-huh.
then you may start at 12, but then you'll finish by 8 and then that's it. You're not eating anymore.
Got it.
And so
Okay.
you don't feel like you're depriving yourself and it's something you can't continue. So I definitely would
Mm.
recommend it.
Okay. What is the benefit of the fasting for I mean, I know what I think it is, but tell the audience what physiologically is going on with hormones when you fast like that.
So when you fast like that, your body is actually reducing your insulin levels because you're fasting. There's no
Mm,
sugar
okay.
coming in. Sometimes your liver does start to create some sugar, so the insulin may go up then, but it definitely can help regulate your levels so you're not as
Mhm,
hungry.
mhm,
It's whereas with the intermittent fasting physiologically, your hormones usually kind of stay the same, like your estrogen, progesterone hormones, those would be okay. But
mhm.
I find that people tend to, what's the word? I'm sorry. When the hormones are a little bit, when they're fasting, they tend to feel a little bit better. Sometimes they can go into a little bit ketosis, but it's not necessarily long enough. So ultimately, with the fasting, it helps people with kind of balancing out their insulin levels. If
Mhm.
you have diabetes, it definitely, you need to be more aware of when you take your medication and when you should eat, just so that you don't go too low on your sugars. Mhm.
Right, okay, that makes sense. And and what is it about insulin that we want it to be lower? So say somebody who has not been diagnosed with diabetes, their blood sugars are fine. How does having lower insulin help us?
Yeah. So the lower your insulin, let me just put it like this. The higher the insulin, it actually causes fat deposition. So fat
Oh,
to be stored. So the
mhm.
lower is, or the better off you would have. So you wouldn't have as much of the storage of fat. So it definitely does
Okay.
benefit you to have lower insulin levels. Mhm.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Okay, well those were the kind of the those were kind of mostly the nutrition questions. So now I know that you are a big exerciser, Ironman triathlon. I think there is a lot of us who are really intimidated by the idea of that intensity of exercise. So for the rest of us wimpier humans, talk to me about exercise and say somebody has never really had an exercise practice at all. What would you recommend they start with? And what should they expect to benefit from doing that, particularly if they are really trying hard to diet at the same time?
Yes. So I would say start where you are. You do not need to run a marathon in a month. So yeah, yeah. Start where you are. If you're new to physical activity, choose an act or try different activities where you may be able to find something that you enjoy and then start there. Because the thing is that you want to be able to incorporate physical activity that you can sustain. And so it may not be, running on the treadmill. It may be just walking, or walking does it for you. Or it may be, I like to go dancing, or I do like to do the Zumba or whatnot. So try different things out to figure out what you enjoy. And then, plan them throughout your day, schedule them into your day, because sometimes if you don't do it, you won't get to it. Just stuff just happens. Life happens.
Yes.
So start small. It is important to incorporate cardio plus strength training. So
Cardio plus strength. All right.
The general health benefit for physical activity is exercising at least 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity, and then 2 days of strength training. So it's important to kind of incorporate those both because it helps you with losing weight as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I have found for me is that if I'm just only accountable to me, then most of the time I won't do it. But if I have okay, well, I'm supposed to meet Susie at the gym at 7, I better get out of bed and get going. So having a coach or a partner or a program that you're paying money for with regularly scheduled things, that has really, really helped me be more consistent. Even when it's something that, and you talked about enjoying exercise. I have personally never been the kind of person who could honestly say, oh, wow, I enjoy exercise. But what I do enjoy is accomplishing something that feels hard to me and having somebody to be accountable to and feeling like, okay, I didn't let them down. I got to the gym and, I did my 25 squats and my 25 presses and and my thing. And so how does that how does accountability fit into what you recommend for people?
Oh, accountability is crucial and it's key because what happens is we get bored with doing things. Like we'll start off real strong, like with all of our New Year's resolution, and then we go off the rails. And the reason is we don't have accountability to keep us accountable. And so by having that friend where you text and like, I did my activity, or having something where they're looking at it, it actually will benefit you because the exercise portion of this, not only does it help you physically, but you're actually able to complete it. You're having fun. You're interacting. It's a stress reliever. So, having that buddy that goes with you to the gym or to work out actually really helps you to be motivated to actually continue the course.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's what I was hoping you were going to say. One last question about exercise. And you mentioned strength training, and I always tell people, especially women who are heading into menopause, that it's really, really important to do strengthening that exercises your spine, or that it increases the strength in your back muscles and shoulder muscles. So do you agree with that as something that we ought to be doing?
I do, because physical activity has been shown to help people with osteoporosis, osteopenia. So it is important that we kind of are mindful of that and making sure we're screening and making sure if somebody does come back positive, that we at least share with them what to expect and how we can treat it naturally.
Yeah. Naturally, right.
There's always pills. But naturally, how can we treat it?
Yeah. Okay. So another buzzword that's going around lately is high intensity interval training. And I've heard that term over and over again, and I don't actually know what it is. So can you help me and my audience understand what that is and how it helps us? Because I'm convinced that it's helpful, but I just don't know what it is.
So, high interval training or HIIT training is basically
Yeah.
when you're incorporating cardiovascular moves plus
Hmm.
strength training. So it's a nice
Okay.
way to get a full body, but you're only doing a small amount. So
Okay.
a good example of this is I actually do this pretty frequently with my trainer is that she'll have a step and we'll just do the step for like 30 seconds. And then after
Hmm.
that, I'll do burpees. And the burpees is kind of the cardio part. So getting my heart rate
Hmm.
up. The steps
Hmm.
are kind of, we've done it long enough so my heart rate doesn't go up, but it's just
Hmm.
something that kind of helps people with kind of maintaining their livelihood, their physical activity. So by
Hmm.
actually exercising, I mean, not exercising, but by doing the HIIT, the combination of strength training plus the cardio, you are
Hmm.
preparing yourself for like if somebody were to come, not come, but
Hmm.
you're preparing yourself to be able to be more fit, have
Hmm.
increased bone density so that you can
Hmm.
reduce the risk of osteopenia and osteoporosis.
Got it. So if somebody wants to kind of design their own hit program, is there an ideal time interval and how long you have to sustain that high heart rate? Is there a way to design it that I mean, I'm assuming there's more than one way to skin this cat.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. There's more than one way to skin the cat. I would recommend for somebody who's starting out, definitely they do have HIIT exercises on Google or on YouTube.
Okay.
You can go to there to get what some exercises you can be incorporating. Secondly, I think just being willing and opening to try it will be helpful to
Mm,
at the very least.
okay. All right. So you agree that it's a good way to combine that cardio plus strength. I think that's kind of the bottom line of what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. All right. Well, we are getting close to running out of time. I do have one more question that I want to ask you. And it's a little bit of a loaded question because you know what I do for a living. So is how important do you think hormone replacement is for women as they head into menopause?
Oh, I think it's helpful, especially for women who are symptomatic, who are having a lot of hot flashes, night sweats, irritability. I do
Hmm.
find that the actual medication of the
Hmm.
anti-obesity medication actually really helps people. And it helps them to
Okay.
be able to do a lot more than they did when they were before they started the hormone therapy.
I see. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Well, cool. That's how can people find you? So I know that you have a podcast. Why don't you give us like a 1 minute rundown of what you talk about on the podcast?
Yes. So my podcast is the Back on Track Achieving Healthy Weight Loss podcast. We focus on helping individuals with getting started with their wellness journey and then maintaining their wellness journey. And then on top of that, we usually have expert guests to give suggestions and strategies so that
Mhm.
can leave there with great information on how they can live a more healthier life.
That is fantastic. And do you have social links or website where people can find you also?
Yeah, you can find me at Dr. Shelly MD, DrShelly MD. And you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Also, my website is drshelly.md.com. So DrShelly dot sorry, yeah, YMD dot com.
Mhm.
DrShellyMD.com, and you can find me there. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on. This has been a lot of fun and I learned a lot. And I certainly am going to come listen to your podcast and get lots more tips and details because, this menopausal journey, it's not something you can just ignore and expect to stay healthy.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you again for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
All right. You're very welcome. And I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Bye.
Okay. All right. So, everybody, if you're listening to this and you're not a physician, please keep in mind scientific proof is not nearly as black and white as people think. And in order to make treatment decisions for individuals, sometimes we have to consider evidence that's not nearly as absolute as we'd like. This is not meant to be medical advice, and you should consult your own physician for any medical issues or diagnoses you may have. That's it for now. I'm Dana Gibbs, MD. You can find me on my website, which is www.danagibbsmd.com. Have a great one. Bye-bye.